It's time for 20XX being run by ateatree, G plus random seed. Take it away and good luck.
Hey, thank you very much, Stump. My name is ateatree, and this is the game 20XX, made by a team called Battery Staple Games in 2017, I think, although it actually started out as a Kickstarter back in 2014 for a game called Echoes of Eridu. I backed it back then, and I'm very happy to be able to show it off to you today. This is a roguelite platformer, kind of in the vein of the Mega Man X 1 to 3 games, the SNES style ones. So there are characters like your X named Nina, and then also the Zero known as Ace. But today we'll be playing as one of the DLC or unlockable characters, depending on which version of the game you have. They're unlocks on console re-releases, I think. This character is named Draco. He's kind of a weapons specialist, but not in the way you'd think. Like, the kind of things you get when Mega Man defeats a Robot Master are powers, and while Draco can technically use those, we won't be seeing any of those today. So, the reason the category is a New Game Plus is because there's this next run item shop, and we can use a currency that you get between runs called Soul Chips from defeating special enemies to buy things for our next run. So we're gonna have something. These are random. I don't have the ability to set them beforehand, but this is the set I've chosen to take with us today. We've got something that when we take damage, we get a longer kind of knockback or invulnerability period. We've got something that if we get a special power up, kind of like the Mega Man X chip system, if we get a leg chip, it'll get more powerful and get bonus effects. And we've also got the plumber hat, the legally distinct power-up that lets us jump higher. So, Stump, as I recall, we want to say hi to our friend Dali here and give her some pets. How many pets should we give her?
Yeah, let me check here. That would be 19 pets. We have raised
19
$95 for.
Dang, I should have just started the petting before I explained anything. No, we can totally work with that. And just to let you know, the incentive does remain open throughout the entire run because we can also give her some pets after the run back here in the hub world. So, just to make sure that I'm on the level, I'm going to show you my controller here, and we're going to go one, whoop, hit the button on the back that makes you jump. I'll give you that as a freebie. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 19 pets. Thank you very much, everybody. And one more for good luck. But yeah, with that said, it is time to get this run started. So the timer starts as soon as the load screen ends and Draco's feet touch the floor. And we're off. So the other thing, ooh, interesting. All right, I like both of those things. So the other thing that the New Game Plus category lets us have is those two power-ups we just got, the kind of chest waiting for us at the beginning. We got a weapon that's kind of like a bow staff that is actually going to be really useful on bosses. And we also got a chest piece, an armor set, that makes it so that we actually don't take knockback from enemies. We'll still get the elongated iframes that I mentioned earlier, but we won't suffer knockback when we run into enemies, so that'll make it so that we can potentially damage boost through traps and things of that nature. So, you've probably noticed already that this character has some very unusual weapons. The main thing I'm using is kind of the hammer, like a sledgehammer. Draco's weapons are unique to him. We're in a combat challenge where our goal is not to take damage, and our reward will be one of those weapon chips that I mentioned earlier, or the armor chips if we can succeed. So let's see about doing that. I'm also able to show off his starting secondary weapon, which is this boomerang. So, unlike other characters, ooh, it's the helmet for the same set. Unlike other characters, Draco does not charge by holding his weapons. The two little orbs, or orb-shaped icons around his midsection represent his charges. And by either pressing a separate button that you can assign, or by pressing up on the D-pad while you attack, you use one of those charges. So each of the weapons that he has access to has a secondary different ability when you use a charge. So the hammer, the starting primary weapon, gets the uppercut property, which basically gives him additional platforming options. It's one of the reasons why I like this particular run so much, is because depending on what weapons you pull for him, he can basically have air dashes without having to get the leg upgrades to do that. This is our first boss, Kerr. And I'm going to get to show off our staff here, depending on what kind of patterns I get from him. Would love to see him shoot these small fireballs, which are not those. So in the meantime, I'm going to shoot this boomerang at him, trying to stay at just the right range that it kind of loops in both directions. We won't get to show off the bow staff here, but I'm going to jump through his patterns, or over his patterns mostly, and try to get him just to the end of the boomerang's range, and that is level 1. When you defeat a boss, especially, you get your choice of 3 things, one of their powers. This is the kind of standard power like Nina gets, so we're not taking any of those. Or you can take money, or you can take a small power-up. But we're going to take the money instead, hoping to find a shop later. And because we finished the level quickly, we also get a bonus chest. On to the next one. So there are 4 different biomes in this game, or level themes. Each one shows up twice. So this is the kind of, lava, the factory level set. So we'll see this now, and we'll see it again at some point later. I chose this boss in particular because this being a procedurally generated game, everything, like the complexity of the level and the relative power of the bosses scales with how far into the run you are when you meet them. So this is a boss that has some annoying tendencies, so taking it earlier on tends to benefit us. This is another kind of challenge level called Lock the Blocks. It gives us a special power that shoots off a projectile based on your own speed. So we needed to be like in jumping or in running while firing it off. We did succeed, but the chest piece that it gave doesn't match the set we already have. Gonna take a little bit of damage here to get some extra money. That's one of the other things. Being a roguelite game, we're not necessarily tackling it exactly like a traditional Mega Man. We want to make sure we defeat some extra enemies to do that, or to look for power-ups. And look, it's Dally. Hi, Dally. Dally will show up anywhere between 3 and 4 times during the run, assuming we find her every time she shows up, and give us some little extra power-ups. All those large blue orbs with the lightning bolt on them are energy, and because we are not using any powers, we are only using primary weapons, we don't need anything energy or power related. If we see power-ups that give us those, we have the option to just like walk right on by, not take them out of the shops. This is a shop. We'll take an extra boost to our jump, and we'll take, this is damage in exchange for losing maximum health. So we're a little more brittle than we were before, but we're also stronger. On to Boss 2, Rollster. If you see this guy on level 1, he loses a lot of his tricks. He'll basically just do these 2 parts. But if you fight him after level 1, he also separates into 2 of himself after being defeated. And if you fight him very late on, he can also split into 4. So that is part of why I made sure to take him early on. Got them to loop in just a nice pattern, and make sure to take them out with the boomerang. Contractor Plus is a great item. We'd love to see more of those show up, because it boosts basically everything you can do. You do more damage, you do more power damage, you jump higher, you move faster. On to the next level. Hey Stump, if you have any donations or other messages, now would be just a fine time for that.
Sure, we have a $25 donation from Sporadic Erratic saying, "Pet that cat."
Absolutely, I would love to do that, and all the better for One Iowa. Thank you so much, Sporadic.
Oh yes. And remember that incentive is still going to remain open throughout the run, so every $5 is going to be another pet that we do toward the end.
Alright, so I was just able to find a store in a random section of the level. Anything like stores, the A lot of the stuff that you see that can show up at the end. Ooh, more glory zones. This is a relatively easy one too. We'll get this out of the way. This is another one where it gives you a special power and expects you to use it. We're just disabling the traps here. They're basically showing you like the extra secondary properties that your weapons can have. It's very neat tutorializing that way. Unfortunately, that was, again, oriented towards a different set that we aren't building towards already. I could have kind of made the decision to switch over and try to collect that set instead, but this particular set kind of has the biggest upswing if we can get it early, so I'm going to keep looking for this one. But we did pick up items when we went to the shop that made us faster, in addition to more agile, so now we kind of have more options for navigating the levels. We could potentially, as you saw when I left the shop, probably about a minute ago now, but I started jumping over portions of the level. And between that and the other movement options that Draco has, that'll start becoming a lot more common as we go. We've got a slot machine here. Let's see if we win anything. No, of course not. And we don't need to go to the shop because I already did that earlier in the level. Old habits die hard. All right, on to the Astral Twins, another boss to take early on if we can, because they're just as vulnerable to both the boomerang and, if we do it right, the bow staff. Yeah, as you can see there, that does a ton of damage because not only does that charge hit the enemy itself several times if they're within the weapon's range, but it also reflects projectiles into just a storm of other projectiles towards the enemy. So if you're at just the right distance, you can do an absolute ton of damage with that. Let's see. All right, so we're going to go back to the factory. This is going to be the second level of this tile set, meaning we won't see it again during the run, but another boss boss with a relatively high health pool that just shoots projectiles all over the place. Hi, Dally. Ooh, thank you. That is a what they call a repro. The little bots that are following us have a variety of different properties. The one that she just gave us is called Gapminder. We're going to do a little damage boosting here to get through this faster. Nice. It's a power-up that makes items in the shop always on sale, or at least one of them. And it can stack, so if I manage to find more of them, I could get to a point where everything in the shop that I find is on sale. That would be neat. Anyways, yeah, so I have a repro that does little headbutts towards enemies to increase my DPS, and I also have one called Gapminder that if I fall into spikes or into pits, it will nullify that damage a couple of times per level. So it's a nice spread. I have a good range of options to work with. I'm surprised I haven't seen more primary weapons. Those are one of the more common drops out of, like, when chests spawn for Draco. That's a very common get, but his primary weapons, even if we don't see anything other than these, we should be just fine. Got a store. All right, let's go even faster. I love it. Speed in this game doesn't just enhance your ground speed, it also enhances the distance, like horizontal jumps go. So again, the faster I can go, the more it changes my platforming options, and whoops, take a little dip in the lava there. But I think Gapminder helped me out. The faster I can go, the more it changes a lot of my options for proceeding through levels. All right, on to probably the best boss for showing off what the staff here can do, because he's all about spamming projectiles, so I can just send those all right back at him. And that's your lot. And yeah, as you see, after we defeat bosses, we get a power-up. Some of them are good, some of them are kind of not really useful for what we do here. This one is great, though. We got more attack speed and another glass cannon. So our HP pool is getting kind of low, but we're getting very powerful. It's an interesting trade-off. Now we'll go to the other Sky Temple level. This is a level set that not a lot of people like. A lot of people are like in theory, but because it's very vertical, can get difficult. We're going to skip that enemy because it has a big shield, and we're able to go around it rather than having to worry about it. So now we've got more Mega Man-like movement options. You can see where this whole platforming section that you'd normally have to take one platform at a time, we're kind of taking routes around a lot of the platforming. And hopefully we'll be able to continue to do that. If we complete this whole yellow armor set, called Armatort's armor set, we'll actually be able to just go right through a lot of damage stuff, because its special ability for collecting all 4 pieces is called Hazard Guard, and it makes it so that you no longer take damage from lasers, spikes, a lot of stuff. Basically everything that isn't a fired projectile, you no longer take damage from. Ooh, all right. We got a leg power-up. So remember, before we started the run, I said I took something that made leg power-ups more powerful. So by default, this gives you 1 dash. Because I have the power-up, I have 2 mid-air dashes instead. So as long as I'm willing to take some damage here, I can cruise through this level a lot faster. Granted, I am now counting on the idea of health replenishment showing up at some point. But there are usually health replenishment vending machines, at least. Yeah, there we go. There's one. So we'll buy ourselves a little bit of extra health. We should be back up to more or less normal. And on to boss number, what is this, 4 or 5? One of those. All right. This is a relatively easy one, especially with our projectile reflection. As you saw, all of its projectiles kind of hung there in midair, kind of challenging you to say, don't come near me. And we said, no, you've already sealed your own fate. We picked up the weapon Gemini, which is one of my favorite for level clearing. You'll see why in just a moment. It is a bow that does 2 shots per button press, and they have an 8-way lock. So basically, they automatically pick the nearest enemy to you. So this will be great for, especially since we're getting later into the run, enemies are going to start dropping more money, more other resources, and as will chests. So having the option to clear more of the level will be really good for us. Stump, if you have any messages, donations, anything else you'd like to read, now would be an excellent time for that.
Alright. Spartacaratica has donated $50 with the message, heck yeah, bonus tracks. More tracks means more MWSF Fest and more hype! That's for a, that one went towards a, incentive a couple runs from now for bonus tracks in,
Mario Kart?
In SSX Tricky.
Ah, Tricky. Run by Junior, I assume?
Yes.
Awesome. Love them. Great people. I mean, all of Midwest Speed Fest and their runners are great people, so. Okay, this is not a shop. This is a very safe laboratory, which give you, as opposed to most of our power-ups called AUGs that, like, just give you a small boost, prototype AUGs can give you a big boost, but also come with significant downsides. That one basically took all of your power-up abilities in terms of, like, attack power, power strength, and redistributed them into health and energy. So we're not going to take that this run, but if we see other very safe labs, we'll definitely stop in. Take more health, because we are kind of low on it right now, and we'll proceed to the boss. Death Lotus likes to play hide and seek. You'll see her immediately go into her kind of end of phase attack, so hopefully we won't see that again. We'll actually just be able to use the reflect. Yeah, we're plenty strong at this point. I don't really want to pause and check, but all right, we immediately gave away some of our maximum health to get stronger again in terms of damage dealt. Or no, I'm sorry, that's leaf metal armor makes you faster in exchange for giving away your health. We're on to the last 2 regular levels. So these are, I believe they're both the ice biome, which makes sense. They usually end up being last in my playthroughs. The biggest thing that happens when you get late is that a lot of the sections that would be flatland become kind of teleporter puzzles instead. I'm going to keep hoping we find the last piece of the armor tort set, so I will buy the leg piece, which changes out our dash, which is nice to have, with a hover, so we can kind of stay on the same vertical axis and then hover around. Alright, a light 'em up challenge. This challenge ends immediately once we have turned on all of our little platforms here. Although the fireballs will continue. Yes! We have the hazard guard. Excellent. Alright, so now spikes and things of that nature no longer hurt me. I can just stand here as long as I want. That will become very useful later on, but we'll probably get good use out of it now as well. The only thing that I have to remember, having given up the dash, is that I now have to make sure that I use the uppercut as kind of my primary mode of vertical transportation. Come over here. In any other run, I would have been happy to see a primary piece not in a glory zone, but here we just have to keep rolling on. And we can actually skip a lot of the puzzling here, not where I meant to go. You can't platform directly off of spikes, but look, I can even go around the teleporter here. So yeah, the run's going to get a little silly, but in kind of the best way that runs of this game can. More speed. I don't think I need anything here. Oh, actually, I will take the headbutt. Having a second one of this repro, I don't actually get a second, but it powers him up so he does more damage. Onto the, I don't know, maybe the body horror boss of this game. I'm actually going to switch out the bow for the boomerang here. We might not need it considering how much damage we do. But yeah, reflecting the projectiles and then having the boomerang here lets me maximize my damage on him. Because we didn't quite kill him fast enough, I had to sit through him spawning enemies for a little bit. But didn't take much longer than that. Alright, I got an item that lets me do more damage the more health I have. So I might prioritize stacking health as well going forward. Switch back over to the bow for level clearing, and we're off into our final regular level. So Stump, if you don't mind me asking, what do you think of this game? Do you have any experience with Mega Man X games, things of that nature? If I caught you unawares or otherwise away, no worries at all.
Alright.
2 Contractor Omegas. Wow. That is incredibly lucky. That's +6 to everything. Damage dealt, extra health. I don't feel like I need to collect anything else in this level. I'll stop by the shop, but after that I'm just going to book it to the end. I don't know if Thorned Hole stack. You know what? Let's take the other one just in case. I also took something in that shop called Nutholder's Might. The primary currency, as you can see in the bottom left, is called nuts. And the more of those I have now, every 25 also makes me do more damage. So you can, of course, you can see now that I'm just doing ridiculous amounts of damage. Even the Gemini bow, which, like I said, old habits die hard. The Gemini bow, which has a relatively low base damage, is killing things in one hit. So yeah, it's going to be just a race to the end by and large at this point, which is a good place to be in. Our last boss here with his highest health total is still barely going to get off one of his second phase attacks. Yeah, I don't really need any of these, but alright, and on into what are essentially the Wily stages. The Deep Station, or the Station Gateway in the case of the first level, are the this is the outer space base of the creators of the player characters, or the contractors, Ace, Nina, Draco, and Hawk. We don't really know why they were made, but the long and short is that, you know, it's an experiment gone out of control. They've made these other robots that have basically turned legally distinct Maverick. I feel like I shouldn't use that term or Capcom will be unhappy with us. But yeah, it's time to put a stop to their craziness. But because we have the Hazard Guard, you saw me running across the big flame spewers and the spiked tops instead of having to do large parts of the normal level, and that's really the best we could ask for. I can't get up to the top on this one, that's okay. We did make a good cycle to make sure there were still platforms under our feet. That was definitely not guaranteed. Thankfully, we also have the float of our boots that make it so that if we do end up in a situation where we might otherwise fall, we can just hang out until a platform comes to meet us. The main thing to know here is that, like, the main thing you have to kind of make your decisions around is, because this is all randomly generated, I don't know whether the level is going to go up or down with the next chunk of level that gets generated in. So I got to really make split-second decisions on that sort of thing. I didn't need the health super much, so I'll take something that basically what that power does, the little pepper, the spicy incense. I would have loved to see that show up early, because it gives you +1 damage when you take it, and another +1 damage for every level you start after that one. This is basically the boss refights, all lodged into one. This is one of the 2 doctors that created the contractors, and he has a powered suit that gives him the power of every boss, or at least 1 power from every boss we saw. But we didn't get to see him use most of those. It is time to move on to the final level in the game. Let's see how our little... This enemy is a DPS test. I'm going to say we probably don't pass the DPS test. We could do a little special thing at the end, after the end boss if we did, but it's probably best not to give that a try. So yeah, you can see here that the quantity of enemies over the last 2 stages has ramped up considerably. If you were going through kind of a normal run, if builds hadn't gone your way, which is definitely a possibility even in this category, we do a lot more fighting. But because of where we're at, like this thing down here, you can see is a long corridor full of spikes and enemies and moving platforms, and we're lucky enough to not have to worry about any of that today. So I am happy on our behalf. Yeah, with that said, not a whole lot to say until we get to the final boss, so if there are any messages to read, any donations, now would be an excellent time for that.
Alright, well, time is running out to make us pet the cat more. That cat needs some more love. we are at 5 additional pets so far, but I'd love to see that be more. Just $5 toward one Iowa gets another one. Make sure to put your donation towards that incentive with the add incentives option at the bottom of the donation page.
Yeah, you got about 2 minutes for that, so now would be a very good time, because this is our final boss, and then there is an escape sequence, as in any good Mega Man X game afterwards. We do not have the Vega weapon, which allows us to do a neat little glitch where we can actually go into those platforms as they spawn, and potentially skip having to platform through them. But that's okay. We're doing lots of damage, so we shouldn't have too many boss cycles to worry about. And if a spawn pattern like that comes up, where the main thing that's blocking you off is those beams, because we have the hazard guard, we don't have to worry about those. There we go. Let us come up a little bit. Ooh, we were fast enough, even with our base movement speed, that you saw us clip through one of those platforms. Maybe we can do that again if we get our timing just right. Yeah, nice. That is relatively uncommon, but I'm happy to see it. Missed the platform, but that's okay. We have our hover. Ah, I did not mean to leave that platform, so I'm not surprised I didn't make that cycle. The faster you get, unsurprisingly, the slipperier the platforming is, so those sorts of mistakes are certainly possible. Nice. Finished it in the very average number of cycles. Because we didn't pass our DPS test, I'm going to free our little robot buddy, and he'll open this door for us. If you decide to leave without him, despite the fact that he's kind of the one who gives you all your power-ups when you're in pre and post run, and the achievement list calls him your only friend, but there's an achievement for forsaking your only friend, which is, you know, kind of sad, but we love friends, and in this case we needed to rely on our friend to make sure we could escape successfully, so happy to help bring him along. Because I had the enhanced boot there, gave me enough hang time that I actually didn't need to use the teleporters in that section, saving just a little bit of time. Time is coming up very shortly. We're in the final section. As soon as I see the ending screen, that'll be time.
GG.
And that's 20XX. Thank you very much. But yeah, we'll hang out just a minute since we finished just a little bit ahead of time. And we'll give Dally her pets once we get back. So I'm happy to give us a few extra minutes for that to happen. In the meantime, shoutouts to the 20XX and 30XX community. If you liked this run, my name is ateatree, and I will be running the sequel to this game, 30XX, at AGDQ 2024. If you didn't like this game, or this run, my name is Helix_13. No, but seriously, shoutouts to Midwest Speedfest. They are great people. Shoutouts to One Iowa. Arigato gozaimasu to the Japanese restream. And thanks to you for being a great host, Stump.
Thanks.
All right, let's do 5 more pets.
Oh, let me just make sure that's the...
4, 5.
Yep, 5 more.
Very good. You know what? I'm just going to do an extra 5 just because y'all have been a great audience. And because cats are wonderful. All right, that's all from me, everyone. Thanks so much. Keep watching Midwest Speedfest Fall Frenzy.